Hi there guys, I hope you are having a good day. Now, Anthony Joshua was shown recently on crutches and in a knee brace. Now, Charles Martin is eagerly monitoring Anthony Joshua's position because Charles Martin is number 2 in the IBF. So if Anthony Joshua vacates that title, he will fight for the vacant title with Kubrat Pulev. Charles Martin versus Pulev for the vacant IBF world title. So Charles Martin is monitoring Anthony Joshua's position. And I bet he is, because Charles Martin got the title through a guy who had to pull out. The guy had to pull out, so that is how Charles Martin became heavyweight champion of the world. Lost the title in his first defense against Anthony Joshua. So Charles Martin was never known as a great heavyweight world champion. He was never really known as a heavyweight world champion, to be honest, because he just got given the belt. And in his first defense, he lost it. And he didn't just lose it, he almost just said, no, I don't want any more. Here, take my belt. Because Anthony Joshua hit him once, knocked him down. He got back up, hit him again, straight back down, and got up just around 10. So he basically said, no, Joshua, take my belt. Don't hit me again, please. That's basically what Charles Martin said in as few words. But Charles Martin has had a resurgence, especially after the knockout victory he had against Gerald Washington, which was a good win. So now he is ranked number 2 by the IBF, the belt he once held. And if that belt were to become vacant, then Charles Martin will fight for it against Kubrat Pulev. Now, I don't believe Charles Martin has the beating of Kubrat Pulev. I don't believe he stands much of a chance, to be honest. Obviously, he stands some chance. It's the heavyweight division. Any punch can change everything. So Charles Martin stands a slim chance against Kubrat Pulev, but not a big one. But imagine if he did win, by some miracle he beat Pulev, and then Charles Martin is 2-time heavyweight champion of the world. How crazy is the sport? So that could happen, but I don't believe that Anthony Joshua will need to vacate, and I believe that he will be ready for Kubrat Pulev, because there's not even a date or venue being put together for that fight. We don't know when it's taking place, we don't know where it will take place. Could be Saudi Arabia, could be Croatia, could even be still in the UK, albeit a small crowd of wealthy toffs, but still it could happen in the UK. So Anthony Joshua will be ready for that, because I think it's only a minor injury and he was put in the knee brace just for precautions. So there shouldn't be too much that will get in the way of that fight, because as I said, they don't have a date, they don't have a venue just yet. So Anthony Joshua has plenty of time to recover and get back to training. But I guess you cannot blame Charles Martin for monitoring his position and thinking that maybe he could have a quick shot at the world title, because if he does get to number 1 and he has to fight Anthony Joshua again, the same thing will happen. He will get stopped, because I just don't think that he can stand up or hack it at that level. Kubrat Pulev is more of a B level, but a B plus heavyweight, so I think that will be an easier fight than Anthony Joshua, but still, I don't think he will beat Kubrat Pulev. Now, in the IBF rules, it does not allow for medical exemption. So if Anthony Joshua cannot fight Kubrat Pulev and is mandatory, then he will not be able to defend his IBF title, meaning he will be stripped. But obviously that is what Charles Martin and his team are hoping for, because they don't really want to fight Anthony Joshua again. And Pulev is an easier fight. So Charles Martin would be extremely lucky if that were to happen again, because Charles Martin was lucky the first time. And let's remember, Charles Martin was going to step over Anthony Joshua. He was going to walk this earth like a god, or he did walk the earth like a god, until Anthony Joshua dropped him twice and knocked him out, and he quit and chucked Anthony Joshua his belt and said, don't punch me again. Basically, that is what happened. So Charles Martin would be extremely lucky to get another opportunity at the IBF world title, and again, it would be through someone getting injured or something like that. But ultimately, Charles Martin has worked his way back to that position. He's got himself back to number 2 in contention. That was no accident. So who can blame him if he does get another opportunity at the IBF world title? That would be great for Charles Martin. And again, he's in the right place at the right time. This guy's quite lucky when it comes to boxing, because he was in the right place at the right time last time. Seems like he could be again. But again, I don't think that Anthony Joshua will need to pull out of his fight against Kubrat Pulev. I think he will be back training very soon, and I think that once we get a date, once we get a venue, that fight will be back on. I don't think Anthony Joshua is going to let that IBF title go quietly. He's not going to let it go unless someone beats him and takes it in the ring. And Kubrat Pulev ain't doing that, and Charles Martin ain't doing that. So ultimately, I believe that Anthony Joshua will still keep hold of that IBF world title. I don't think he will vacate it. I don't think he will be stripped because they can't fight at the moment anyway. Kubrat Pulev and Anthony Joshua don't have a date, don't have a venue. So that fight is not going ahead at the moment until we do get a date, until we do get a venue, wherever that could be. And it's not like Anthony Joshua is taking time out for the injury. It's just because of COVID-19. No fights can happen due to no mass gatherings of people and obviously social distancing. So it's not the injury that is keeping this fight from happening. It is actually COVID-19. So when there are talks about dates and venues, that is when the fight will go ahead. Anthony Joshua still has 3 months to get ready for that fight. Still has time for that injury to heal up. And as I said before, it's not like it's a bad injury. That knee brace is just for precautions. So it cannot be that bad. Now, the date and venue for Pulev Joshua, I don't know where it will take place. There's talks of Croatia, Saudi Arabia, still in the UK in front of a small crowd. Now, there are talks of Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder possibly going to Macau, China, or having it in an NFL stadium. And apparently now, the frontrunner is Australia. So maybe Anthony Joshua's team and Eddie Hearn will wait to see what Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder do to see where maybe logistically they could go for the fight. Because apparently in Australia, there is a suggestion that it could happen in a stadium in front of 45,000 people. This is what Bob Arum had to say about the possibility of this fight going to Australia. The suggestion was to go to a place called Bankwest Stadium, which can hold 45,000 people. It's the middle of summer down here. It could go into Melbourne and Marvel Stadium. They had 50,000 people there for a UFC event not so long ago. Or we could do it at Suncorp Stadium in Brisbane. So the plan there is obviously to align it with Australian summer around Christmas or maybe Boxing Day. That is when they are planning to put that fight on in Australia. That is the plan if they were to go there. So that is interesting to take it to Australia in their summer and have it around Christmas, which is kind of shocking because it makes us believe that big time boxing will not return until late this year, very late this year, or early next year. But that's just the way it is. So Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder 3 could happen in Australia, Christmas Day, Boxing Day. That seems like it is the front runner at the moment. So what does that mean for Anthony Joshua versus Kubrat Pulev? Well, I believe that means they will be going to a different country. If not, it will be in front of an exclusive crowd in the UK, if they are lucky. So I believe that all these big fights will go abroad to places where there are low numbers of COVID-19 cases, like Australia and seemingly like China now, or certain places in China, like Macau. Obviously, Australia hasn't been affected hugely like Europe has, so that seems to be where they may take these fights. That being said, I don't believe that Anthony Joshua and Kubrat Pulev will go there specifically. I think that it will be Croatia or Saudi Arabia if they do not do it in the UK. That seems likely because obviously Pulev's team are talking to representatives in Croatia. Eddie Hearn has good relationships with those in Saudi Arabia. But guys, what are your thoughts on this? Apparently Charles Martin is monitoring Anthony Joshua's situation with his knee injury. There is no current date or venue for Anthony Joshua versus Kubrat Pulev. So that does not mean all that much because Anthony Joshua is not taking time out for the injury. It's not medical exemption because obviously COVID-19 is the reason why Joshua Pulev is not happening. No other reason. When it does get back on, Anthony Joshua will be ready. He will not need to vacate that title, I don't believe. But when the fight does happen, it could be Croatia, could be Saudi Arabia, or maybe, and unlikely, it could still be in the UK. Anyway, guys, drop your thoughts in the comments below, leave a thumbs up, and subscribe if you are new. Thanks, guys.